Hi, I'm Mark Clegg. Welcome to the Photographer Academy, and today we're looking at the 3 favourite things of mine in the new Adobe Photoshop 2023 release and things. And basically, October every year it tries to actually bring some new things. It obviously tweaks them during the year. It might be launching the correct version of a beta that's been in test or whatever. But again, what we're going to be looking at is my 3 favourite things. So I'm going to start off as a portrait photographer predominantly now. I want to be able to really enhance images, and I want to enhance them not just one at a time but many at a time. So the first things first, in my normal workflow I'd still be going through the corrections to give myself the kind of the look and the feel that I need. That would usually be done in a preset that I've made up. Nothing new there. What is new is actually in the masking mode, it now basically gives you a subject or subjects, as you can see here. So if you're familiar with a palette, in this case it's showing a subject, sky and background. Basically, background is an inverted subject, or should I say subject is an inverted background, all right? But what we have here now is this people icon, and it can identify multiple people in the same photograph. When I click on the person, I've then got an option to what do I want to affect, and in this case, as a rule of thumb, I usually affect face skin, body skin, the iris and pupil with it, lips and hair. Okay, I want to create a separate mask for each one, so I need to click this little box here, and then I'm just going to hit the word create, and it's going to do that. Don't forget to hit create, otherwise it ain't going to do what you've just got. So what I've got here straight away now is an option to change those elements. So I'm opening up the shadow in the hair. It's quite dark hair, but I can still keep my contrast there by increasing the contrast and decreasing the black as well with it. So I'm just affecting the hair here. If I need to lighten across it, I can, but be careful how much you do these things. The next one is going to be the person's lips. It's a bit hot here, so let's just take the saturation down just a little bit, not a lot, but just a touch. And then what I want to do is in the iris, so let's just zoom in here for a minute, and we're just going to affect the iris. So let's increase the exposure overall, and at the same time we'll just dial down here and we've got texture. Now, one of the other great things in the mask, we've also now got a curve, and it's also got color options for the RGB as well, the red, green, blue, so we can adjust the different colors. So for instance, if we wanted to add a little bit more green into her eyes whilst I'm in the iris and pupil, by clicking onto the green, push it up towards the green, and you can see that add in and just that touch and things really. Okay, so just goes there. Next one, we're going to do the body skin. Notice how it kind of names these for you as well as you're bringing them in. Body skin, by design, I tend to actually just bring the texture down, especially if we're working on the likes of lots of flesh with women and we're in a kind of softening technique rather than just the reality life. So even the likes of headshot photography, I can apply a little bit of this. I'm more careful actually what I'm doing to the face. So as far as the skin, the body skin, down a lot in the texture, quite just a touch in the clarity. Remember, clarity is a mid-tone sharpness, gets a little bit muddy and yeah, but just a little bit on that. The texture is the main one that we want. But then we're going to work on the face, and then by working on the face here, we're going to once more just drag the texture in down just to kind of soften the amount that you need. So in other words, you know, this is down to beauty in the eye of the beholder anyway, and how much you actually want less or more, as it were. But like I began by saying, that if you were a kind of a boudoir photographer, a portrait photographer of women, and you love a soft skin, then this is a really good way for you to be doing it. So we're not on about high-end retouching here or anything else. This is just a portrait workflow. And so by doing that, we've basically created ourselves a really lovely, simple kind of fix to an image, which is pretty much ready for album or print straight away. I would do a little bit more work if it was for the wall and so on with it. But the AI, the artificial intelligence, has really come alive within the likes of Photoshop. Obviously to do with things like would I retouch the kind of marks on the face and everything else with it and things. I would for my own display, but that would be discussed with the likes of the client. But that has nothing to do with the likes of what we're on about today. Okay, so I've just kind of worked on that image. So really what I want to do though is kind of work on lots of images, yes? So just so we can kind of be clear, what I'll do is actually bring these images in. We'll ignore the one we just did and we'll do exactly the same technique, because one of the things I really kind of talk about more than anything else is, well, it's got to be in a part of the workflow, otherwise we're just fiddling with images. So if I can't apply it en masse and it looks great en masse, then really the artificial intelligence is doing good, but is it doing great? And I really do believe that the likes of this improvement to the ACR, to the development module of RAW, is absolutely brilliant. And it works exactly the same whether we're in Lightroom or within Photoshop, or as we are now in ACR. So if I just kind of click on the one, that's fine, but I want to select all of them, Control A to select those. I've chosen which image I want to work on. Doesn't really matter, because what I'm about to do could be applied across all images. So in other words, you could create a bit of a preset for yourself. It's going to automatically look for a person in the photograph, and by doing that I can select her, and by this now I can do exactly what we just did. So in other words, face, body, I want the iris and pupil, lips and hair. Click on to create 5 separate masks. If I don't do that, they're all as one and they would kind of have a global adjustment. So if we just click create. Now this is going to take a little bit longer to update the AI. Why? Because it's working on 5 images. The more images you use, the longer it's going to take. So if I selected about 20 images, probably it's going to take about 2 minutes in a normal PC like I'm running. I would think it'd be similar with a Mac to basically update the AI and things. All right, so it's pretty much done its job. Once it's created there, it's actually created this mask on every single one of those images. But as I start to adjust them, what we're going to see is it's going to affect just the saturation. I want a minute. There we go. Just bring that down. And look, the warning triangle is on each one of them, which means that it's affecting each of those photographs, which means it's a workflow. And that is what is really exciting with hair. By the way, I do give a little bit of a texture as well with it and things. Lips we did, so we want the iris. So because this is a global adjustment across them all, remember I can go in and adjust each one in time. I'm really going to just press my zoom in here just a touch, and I'm just going to increase the exposure. I'm going to increase the sharpness as well. I'm going to go back up. Remember we got that black, that curve there. So let's just add a little bit of a sharpness to the image, and then we'll go back and just change that exposure down. If we kind of made the adjustment there and we think it's just a little bit heavy, you don't have to go in and adjust the mask of that particular one. You could actually just go and click on this amount slider here, which is new as well, to actually reduce that amount down. So body skin, we already know what we're going to be doing, of course. We're going to come back down to the texture. We're going to reduce that down. We're going to move a little bit of the clarity as well. Then we're going to go to our face. And this point, we're only going to touch on the texture. And so what I've just done is across all of those images, I've just applied the mask adjustment. So in any one of these now, I can see what the adjustments are being made across those images. And that's what I love in that first part of the upgrade. It really has done its job. And remember, you can still go in and see all the masking that has been done with an image. So if there's a photograph that you think isn't alive enough with eyes or lips or whatever it would be, then you can physically just go back in and adjust an element of it and things already. So do not be afraid to actually go in and change this. Let's just quickly finish off this section to basically show you that it works on two subjects as well. So if I just go into here and I just go to Control R again, we select the three images. By the way, the first thing that I would do in workflow is correct color balance, add any exposure corrections, reduce any errors that might be here, set my film level as far as the look and the feel to it is concerned. And then basically it's now ready for me to actually go to work. And we can already see this girl here actually is brighter than this girl is in kind of texture in one image, but she might not be in another. So let's go back into the mask, wait for it to update. Now you can see again, it's looking for people. And what I want to do is basically, first of all, create the adjustments for this girl on the left-hand side. So remember, face, body, skin, we want the iris, and we want the lips and hair. So we're going to hit create 5 separate. Going to press that, then when it's done, again, as I said, it could be quicker for me to actually just use one image, but it's not truly a workflow then. So I want you to actually show how it all kind of comes together. Now I can obviously just go in and do exactly as we saw before, making the little kind of changes to each of the sections there. Then just going into the pupil, just brightening up just a little bit. Once more going into the body skin, reducing down the texture. Add that little bit of clarity, changing into the skin element. Now for the face, that is just going to be the texture. So remember, that's updated all three of those photographs just for her, the girl on the left hand side. Yeah. So if I need to go back to the lips, didn't make any adjustments there, perhaps just a little bit of a desaturation. We've done a good job. But now let's actually go in and create a new mask for another person. So we're going to select people now. It has to go through it, but now you can see all I got to do is click onto her. Face, body, iris, lips, hair, all done. Clicking on the create 5 separates, clicking on create. AI is going to do its job. I know some people think that AI is going to take away, you know, the real workmanship, but as you can still see, we're applying what we need to no matter what. So this is person hair, and the first thing I want to do, in fact, in the face skin, for me, this is the most important part. I'm going to just reduce the exposure down just a little bit and take the highlights down just a touch. That's before I do anything else. But let's not forget, I really want to add the texture into her face. And then we can work our way through. So in the hair, she can just have a slight decrease, but an opening up of shadow. Remember, anytime we open up the shadow, we should, by default, kind of open up the contrast. There we go. And then we work into the, we've done the hair. We'll just do the lips in saturation down a touch. Then we work into the pupil, increase the exposure overall. Facial skin, we've done that already. The hair, we've obviously increased it. Oh, that's person 1, sorry, I do apologise. Body skin, we haven't done on her, so we just need to bring the texture down and kind of the clarity. And again, once more, what it's doing here, it's given us a before and after of each of these girls in each of the photographs. Now, because this photograph overall is a little bit darker and this photograph is as well, let's just zoom out again. Okay, these need an increase overall. So in other words, here we're out of mask, we're back into the basic mode, and this is where we're now just going to increase the exposure overall. And you might even find that, in fact, we can see that in this photograph, the difference that we've done for this girl, so we're looking at per person 1, and we're looking at the face skin, we're looking to increase the exposure to help match the other girl. Let's just do that in the same way here. Let's zoom out. That works perfectly. And this one hopefully does as well. It does. So it was just because this girl was in so much shadow, I've gone in and made those adjustments with it. That is absolutely the reason why I love that new update. Okay, so let's look at photo restoration. So I've scanned a very old photograph of my wife's grandfather, who she never met. And basically this is the best image that they've actually got of him. Lots of images got damaged in a flood and fire and everything else with it and things really. But anyway, this is George Christmas, born on Christmas Day as it were. And we're going to be making use of the neural filter in the likes of Photoshop. Now, basically the neural filters, they've been around for a while now, but many of them have been in beta. Remember, with a neural filter, if you open it for the first time and you see these little clouds, it means that they haven't been downloaded yet, okay? So basically, I've downloaded this photo restoration one, and now to use it, all I need to do is click it on. When I click it on, Photoshop AI is going to do its little job, and it's going to be processing it, as you can see down at the bottom here. But already we can see the amazing effect that it's had on the eyes here. All right, if we kind of just see what it was like before, it's unbelievable of what she's never seen her grandfather look like. So we can see there's some problems here to do with the spectacles and everything else with it, but look how sharp that eye is. It's just absolutely unbelievable. So as far as the face enhancement, let's push that up more. That should help ears, lips, nose, bit of hairline as well and things really. And this kind of image is pretty bad, but using this new photo restoration, which as I said has been in beta, but now it's basically there, and that will actually give us a really good effect. So we've done first of all the enhancement to the face, then we need to actually kind of remove the scratches. Now I've kind of pushed up the scratch detection, or reduction I should say, quite high, so it's going to take a little bit more of a time. Up until this, we'd usually be doing dust and scratches in the likes of Photoshop as a kind of a quick fix, cutting out, pasting, or kind of masking to kind of get images better and better, then slowly kind of retouching every one of those lines and everything else with it. So as I said, you know, it's quite a big job, but you can see already the before and after. That's where we began, and that's where we're at, and we're not really doing anything. So for any of you looking to earn a little bit of cash from kind of photo restoration, this is pretty much it. It is going to need some work done. We know that for the glasses, so we're not saying that it's a fix all, and we can see that some of the kind of the scratches, they still exist and so on. But again, it's Photoshop doing that basic job for us to begin with. All right, now I want this to kind of come in as a new layer, so I'm just going to press OK. There are some advancements here if you want to as well, all right? But that's really down to yourself. And then we're just going to go press OK. And then what we've got is the original below, the kind of the new master on top with it and things really. And then from here, it's kind of what else are you trying to achieve? So you can see the kind of the problem with the glasses. You can see they didn't exist here. So we'll definitely need a little bit of work to steal a little bit of this glass here, move that across to kind of fix this kind of dropped kind of eye glass itself and things really, and kind of square it off more as it would have been. So again, what we've got though is a face that my wife has never seen before. So that's how amazing it is. And you've just got to think about, okay, I need to just do a little less work now. It doesn't mean it's fixing it all, but it's a really good job and things. So in other words, Control J, if I wanted to get rid of more of the dust and scratches specifically behind him, I mentioned it to you already, noise, dust and scratches, how much are you going to do? We want the kind of blurring out almost an arty level, And then what we're going to do is either start off with a few of the blend modes and kind of reduce those down. I wouldn't. I would just click onto a mask and then basically, let's invert that mask in fact. And then B for brush, D for default, and then we can start to actually paint away things that we're really not bothered about. You can see how big my paintbrush is here, because I'm really not interested in the background or even the texture onto his clothes and so on. If I was going to do all the work, this is really what they're looking for, is this face and things really. So I've got to be honest, that new filter is just absolutely amazing. If I just do Shift Control Alt E and I just go back into filter, neural filters again. If you haven't seen it, we have covered this in Photoshop School in the past, but if I colorize it, it means for the first time, in fact, she's going to see her grandfather's face and in flesh-like color. So absolutely amazing. But colorize has been there for a while, so that's nothing new. But the photo restoration is, so check that out anyway. Right, next thing really is the kind of the delete fill. I'm just going to grab an image. So let's just open this girl on the beach in RAW. This is a RAW file anyway. And let's just do my quick kind of corrections to it anyway. And then I want to darken this sky. So in fact, let's go back into that mask, the masking as we just saw. Just going to select on sky and then just kind of bring the exposure down a little bit. Push the contrast up and the black down. White's just a little bit higher. Highlight there as well. And perhaps we'll just warm up that sky just a little bit, or cool it down, warm it, bluish. There you go. All right, back into the basic, just kind of lighten it a little bit. Can you see what happens now when you're fiddling? Okay, so in other words, I now want to actually lighten her a little bit. So basically, entire person, I'm going to create it. I'm just going to lighten her just a touch. Oh, Mark Cleghorn, you're a waste of space. Okay. So with it opened up in Photoshop now, we really want to demonstrate the kind of delete and fill, which is kind of a step up or step down, whichever you want, from a content aware, as it were. So the first thing I want to do is make a selection of the girl. So we're going to click onto the selection here. And then I'm going to just click onto the cloud for a little bit more of a detailed selection. And then click on Select Subject. And that's going to do a good job of her. Probably, though, it's going to miss. It is, look, and it's missing all there as far as the strands of the balloons. So for now, I'm just going to cheat and bring these in as well. All right, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new layer of that selection. So Control J. So she's kind of on her own. And what I want to do is basically remove her. So in other words, let's just duplicate this twice. So we'll call this one original. Okay, so we'll keep that one. Then this is going to be content aware fill. And this one, Control J, duplicate it. We're going to do this is the delete and fill. I have to remember what it was called then. Okay, so let's show you the technique first. Yes, so what we're looking to do is basically remove her from the scene. So to do that, Control click onto the selection. Yeah, that's the top image, even though she switched off. By Control clicking onto that, we've been able to reselect things. Yes, and what I want to do now is right click onto the somewhere on the selection, and you can see we've got this delete and fill selection just below content aware fill. So if I hit that, it's going to do a decent job. Okay, I want to fix this hair in a minute. So just to be fair, let's look at the content aware fill now. So let's press the shift and the backspace, brings up the fill dialog box. And we can see from the drop down here, we've got the content aware. All right, that's what we want. Just going to press OK. And then it's going to analyze around it and basically remove it. So you can see in the comparison between this image and this image, the content aware didn't do a good enough job. We'd usually have to expand the selection for it to acknowledge it. And obviously we could use the working dialog box. So already the delete and fill is a better option for us. So let me just delete this content aware, go back into the delete fill. What I would do here though is basically just select around the girl's hair, then basically use that shift and the back wrong button mark. It was the right button, but on the wrong selection. All right, I removed it from the bottom layer, not the top, and I definitely want the top. Okay, so here we've removed her from the image. Why have we removed her? Because basically the aperture doesn't look like it's really creative enough. So if I want to either change the depth of field or motion blur, I can just come up into the filter blur, and I could choose either a lens blur or in this case a motion blur. Just kind of add that little bit more of a motion into the sea as if I'm panning. Just going to press OK. So we've got that kind of before and after image now, so it's a much better kind of image. Obviously I can kind of change it even more. So if I just do it again, so just go into filter blur, and let's go lens blur just to add a little bit more in. Here we go. There we go. So it's just applied a very strong kind of blur to it. So the first things first, just drop the opacity back just a little bit. Be careful when you're doing that though, because at times you can get this kind of more artistic kind of finish. Can you see it there? Than actually what we had before. So I'm not a fan of that at all. So in history, let's just step backwards to where we were happy with the image. Yes, so we want that lens blur, no, before then. So if we go back to before the motion blur, and now we go into filter blur and then the motion blur again. Let's increase the motion blur now. There we go. Now we'll press the opacity change just a little bit, bring a little bit more information in. But the reason I kept the bottom layer is the feet here. So in other words, if I just bring in a mask, BD, and then we've got a little bit of a X to put black on top, and then we can just start to bring the information back around the actual foot. But really what we did is we created this lovely kind of much better motion blur element to the image, but we filled in the background first, otherwise we're going to have lines. So in the same way, I just want to take a small brush and just paint through some of the sea in the background to have almost like a motion blur effect going on with the balloon cord as well with it. And that is my third thing that I love in the likes of the new Photoshop 2023 is this new content fill. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'm going to do a much more in-depth one over on the Academy. Feel free to actually come across and see it.